Yeah, this is by no means like big news.
Okay.
I just saw it and I was like, oh, this could. It's just, I don't know.
Okay.
Conversation idea, even though it's not like a super pressing thing, but
Yeah.
it's literally just something that you'd see like as you're like on Google and it does like suggested things and it's just like related to like what you search. But
Sure.
anyways, this is Jensen Ackles makes a perfect Batman in DC movie deepfake video. And what that made me think, Jensen Ackles, well, I guess we know from The Boys, but he's more famously on Supernatural.
So did they deepfake the whole movie?
No, it's just like a fan-made thing, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
It just made me think, since like he was on so like big on Supernatural, of like if you're on Tumblr now, or maybe a couple years from now, you got all those like back when we were on it, you had like, well, I'm sure this still happens, but you know, like gift sets of all these different shows, and they'd ship like, you know, Jensen Ackles. I'm trying to think of the main characters are Sam and Dean. Sure. And then there's another guy named Castiel. That's right. He's and they would always ship like Sam and Castiel or Dean and Castiel. I'm just imagining in like a few years' time, Tumblr is just going to be filled with gift sets of like those ships like on like deep fake porn.
That's
so like
I feel like I was thinking about that the other day because it was kind of a controversy as of late. Like there was like that one streamer that he opened. He opened like a tab, and basically like if you have any tabs open and you're a big streamer, you should just.
Ross.
Was it Aiden Ross? I thought it was someone else. Because
I'm pretty sure that's the one.
I'm talking about the guy who like did like a tearful apology with his girlfriend sitting behind him. I don't think that was Aiden Ross, because Aiden Ross would just be like, "Yeah, I jerk off to that. Who cares?" Because he's one of those like Andrew Tate guys, right?
Yeah, but I thought you were talking about him because he did get like, I'm pretty sure he got suspended at least because he did just have porn open.
Cool. Oh, okay. No, this guy apparently had like Pokemon deepfakes up or something like that.
Yes.
And like he made that really awkward video with like his girlfriend just sobbing quietly behind him as he's like, "Guys, I really messed up this time. This isn't who I am." You know, that kind of shit. But I was thinking the other day of just like, yeah, because it's like, I feel like it does disproportionately affect women because like, yeah, there's so much porn out there that you could, like the types of dudes that are just like doing the Sherlock, like the digits and the code coming, and they're like, this body type with this face, I can put just this video with this person. You know, it's gross. But the idea of just like a guy that you don't like and you just deepfake his face on like gay porn. So it's just like, yeah, it's you, dude. But yeah, that is crazy. Like I'm surprised that Tumblr hasn't embraced that more, because I feel like they're more on like the cutting edge of social justice-y stuff, so they won't touch it. But I bet deep down, if as soon as they figure out how to do deepfake technology, that will take shipping to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. and I feel like there'll be some mental gymnastics where it's like, well, they're characters and we're shipping characters, so it's okay.
Yeah. These aren't
they're fucking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with AI and like deepfake technology and all this shit. That's kind of, I feel like it started last year, because I remember we did our Pirates episode and we were like, haha, what if we ran?
It was us. We brought this all to the forefront.
That is true. We were right there. But we were doing what if we ran episodes or movies through the what was it called?
I almost said Chat GPT, but that's the new one.
DALL-E. That's what. Yeah, the DALL-E thing. And it seemed innocuous at the time because it was, like I said before, funny shit like coming up with different.
And it was like not good,
Yeah,
there was
like,
a lot of like
it's weird, off kilter. Like you could type in like Super Mario Nuremberg trials, and you could get some sort of AI where Mario's hanging his head, sad, and he's like being tried for war crimes. But now it's like, I don't know. I try not to go far down the conspiracy rabbit hole, but there was like this thing not too long ago where everyone was like, put yourself through AI and see the different pictures that it comes up with. And I feel like a ton of people were doing that. Like there are people on my, because the AI would make you look cool or hot or something like that. It's like, what's the difference between someone else doing that with other people, and also now your image is like in a database somewhere, artificially generated by someone. But I got to look like a warrior, or I'm in a sci-fi scenario and it's AI of my face. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Everything's collecting data, so it might not be anything, but it just seems weird that it's like we don't have to have psyops. We psyop ourselves.
Yeah,
for AI generated art because it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And unless you look at their fingers, the fingers are always like,
or the pupils.
Oh, it's bad.
Pupils and fingers. Yeah. At least now, like all that data generation is just for advertising, which is not great, but it's not like it's just for advertising so far. So
yeah, true.
But once they're able to start like fully mimicking people, then they can start really using it for heinous people. They're like, hey, if you don't buy Pringles, we're gonna release this video of you like plotting your assassination of the president or something like that.
Or like AI generated images of you wearing like SS uniforms or engaged in lewd acts. I mean, the voice shit is also pretty crazy. Like I sent you that Resident Evil 4 one where it's Leon talking to Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be like Donald Trump, who's still like all those, president do tier lists of whatever.
Yeah.
He's the one that I've never seen anybody quite get, and it's because he has such a unique cadence to how he speaks. And I haven't seen. I'm sure eventually it'll happen.
Yeah.
But as of now, that you gotta talk like a fucking. He already talks like an AI, and maybe that's why.
Sort of,
like he talks like one of the the like default ones that they have on TikTok. How those are like, I can't believe this happened to me.
Yeah, he has such a way of phrasing things that it's like it's only his head. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, like there's comedians that have done it, and the Shane impression I think is really good. But the way that he describes how to do it is interesting because I think it kind of gets at how Trump speaks. Because in the stand-up bit, he's like, the way Trump talks is that he describes something and then he describes himself doing something. So it's like, I walked in this room and I thought, wow, what a great room. Like, but that's, I feel like if you're in like an elementary school and you have to like do that, like the line, and then you put the verbs, adverbs, like the how they graph out like speech.
Yeah.
Trump would just be all over the place because he like rearranges and inserts words, pre and after, and it's like it's a language almost all his own.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the last vestige of our humanity, Donald Trump.
I'm glad we got there.
All right. Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gents. This is episode 92 of ThereWillBeDuds, and I'm your co-host, TJ, a.k.a. J-Spot Jack Cheese, and with me, as always,
I'm Nick, a.k.a. Dr. Funk on Twitch.
And as always, we watched a movie. We watched 2 movies this week. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about the original first, and then the American remake second. The original being Infernal Affairs from 2002, directed by Andrew Lau and Alan Muck. It follows an undercover cop and then an undercover gangster. So the gangster has planted himself as a mole in the police unit, and then the undercover cop is the opposite. He's in that gangster member's gang, working for his boss. It's a cat and mouse story. Each are kind of working to take the other, the gangster's working to take down the police investigation into his boss, and then the cop is working to take down the boss's organization. And they're also trying to figure out each other's identity because they eventually find out that there's a mole in their respective units, so they're trying to figure out the other person That's it. If it sounds familiar, it's probably because you've seen the next movie we're going to talk about. What'd you think? I'll let you go. What'd you think?
Overall, I had a pretty positive experience with it.
Okay.
It is very hard to not, because I think very much like you, I think I've seen the American remake first.
We can say the name. I mean, it's not.
It's in the episode title. Yeah. So this is the basis of The Departed, directed by Martin Scorsese. So it was hard not to watch this with that in mind, just because like I knew some of the beats that were going to happen, kind of basically how it plays out. There were a few changes from the American remake. I think some maybe for the better, some a little more fleshed out. This movie is much more lean than the remake, which I don't know. I think some stuff super didn't work out for me. I think the romance subplot was a little undercooked, I would say, and some of the music choices and like the weird decisions to have sentimentality kind of were a little jarring. But I thought the performances of the main cast were pretty decent. And I really liked. I did like some of the ways that they communicated with each other, like because in the Departed, you know, they're trying to. It's more, I guess, 21st century with like cell phones and like
the flip phones that go every time.
Oh yeah, sounds like a sword being sheathed. Yeah, in the Departed, they pretty much like text each other like no phones or $sign. But this, I really liked the use of Morse code and the way that he was tapping his cast on the window, and that's how he was like sending out the signal. I thought that kind of stuff was really cool, and it kind of added a little bit of variety to like how they were trying to communicate with each other, you know. So overall, I liked it.
I did not like this.
Okay.
Not that much.
Okay.
It was, but like, it's really hard for me to know what, like, I think I have settled on a number for a number score, but it's so hard because I'm like, you know, so much of this stuff is just like in The Departed, which I like more, but it's like, but this was the first one. So it's like, you know, I got to give it points for being the one that set up the basis for some of these scenes, but I think the way that it's directed, I think the way that it's... I do like how they're performed in this, or I like the performances, but I like the acting more in the American one. And I think there's like a tighter control of like the tension in the American ones too. The music was... The only one that was like good and like, you know, worked for the scene for me was that scene after the movie theater, and Tony Leung's character... Who this is a 2 for 2 Tony Leung playing a cop for the show. And he's tailing Andy Lau's character. Yeah. Is his character's name Lau too?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, that's funny. That's kind of got, you know, like
it seemed appropriate to the scene as opposed to like
super
operatic,
dramatic, like like when Tony Leung dies at the end, I started doing the Dear Sister, what you say? It was like black and white, slow motion. It did the Andy Lau like turned around to him. It was like, and then like flashbacks, and like it does it a few times because it does it when I'm trying to... The police chief. Sorry. The Martin Scorsese character. Wong, is that it?
You mean Martin Sheen?
Did I say Martin Scorsese? Martin Sheen.
The Queenan equivalent.
Yes.
The Queenan equivalent. I like that. It's fun. Yeah,
Wong.
Okay.
Super intense. SP Wong, that's right.
Yeah.
It does like the same thing. And it does like flashbacks to like, all these moments they had, but it's like, but you don't see any of this stuff in this movie.
Yeah,
it's like trying to make it dramatic after the fact, but you don't see this.
Yeah,
and then when Tony Leung dies, it does that with Andy Lau, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you guys didn't know each other.
Yeah.
He sold you a fucking hi-fi stereo once.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like the way that it flashes back to like the Wong flashback when they're on that roof, like really one of the only scenes that they're in together in the whole movie. He's like, I got you this watch. It was for your birthday. And they cut it there because right after that, he's like, I hate watches. so it's like you're supposed to have this sentimental reaction, but it's like, yeah, but right afterward, he's kind of a dick to him. So like, you can't really convince me that he's like, oh no, I'm so sad by this. Because like, again, in The Departed, like there's more scenes with Leo and Martin Sheen where it's like you kind of see their relationship and like, he's like, no, man, you just gotta stick into it a little bit longer. I know it sucks, but like, there's a relationship there, and yeah, this flashback. I said that I liked it in the sense that like it was.
You can like the movie. It's okay. I'm not attacking you.
No. I liked it in the sense that it's almost like a companion piece. Like it was fun to watch because I've seen The Departed.
This is by no means the worst, like normal cut movie that I've watched.
You know, because like I was reading some of the Letterboxd reviews, and some people were like, you know what? I think this is way better than The Departed. I think, I feel like it's just that you're just being a contrarian. You're being a Letterboxd shithead. Like, that's
the takeaway I had watching this.
It's like, I was no way, dude.
Because I remember that back when The Departed came out, it had its detractors, especially after it won Best Picture.
It was like,
nerds. Infernal Affairs is better, and it's like you're just saying that to like let people know that.
Oh, you watch Chinese cinema? Oh my god!
Yeah,
you're so cool.
Yeah, and that's really what it feels like because this feels like an American action movie, just like a generic American action movie with a good like concept or a good hook. The cat and mouse thing.
The story almost feels like one of those, like, there are only 5 types of stories. And this almost feels like an archetype of, like, you know, mistaken identities. One guy's in this group, one guy's in this group, but trying to figure each other out. That just feels like one of those, like, classical stories that it's, like, one of the 5 that you can pick to make your movie out of. So I think already it's, like, it's very strong in that, like, it's built in. Like, you want to find out how they're going to find each other, if they even do. Like, it's kind of like a proof of concept on its own. So already it's like going to be an interesting story, unless you don't do it right. Unless
which I would argue that I don't think this does, because it really makes me appreciate the Departed a lot more. Like, I like Tony Leung, so I think this is more how it was written in the script, or I don't think this is like him as an actor's fault, but like, I never really felt like he would, like, again, like, not really seeing any of the hardships he goes through.
Yeah.
But he's just like, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm so over it. But you don't like see his struggle. You don't have like multiple scenes of him like there's Leo,
there's no suspicion
dealing with
on
like,
him, really.
Demanding like a prescription medication.
Yeah.
Like of Oxy, or, you know, saying how much he's like thinking about you know, and gaming himself.
I think the term the kids use today is unaliving.
Unaliving.
Yeah, that's how you get around it in the algorithm. Yeah. I mean, again, in The Departed, like, you see Leo kind of lashing out, the famous, like, what is it, your period scene, where he's just. Yeah. I think that is also like him trying to prove that he has street cred, that he's not a cop, that he's willing. I
think that's also Billy too. I think I've always thought it's a little bit of everything. Like, yeah, I think it's him trying to play up, like, hey, Costello, put me in your gang. I'm a violent dude. But I also think that is his culture. That's how he was raised.
Exactly. So. And it's a much more, I guess, lukewarm. Yeah, you don't really see any of his sort of, you know, conflicts in his mind of just like, I'm committing felonies, I'm hurting people, I'm doing bad things. Like, it's very like neutered almost. Like, it's very like, I'm talking and it's like very
notebook. I just realized.
What's that?
I said I don't even have my notebook.
Oh, yeah.
I just noticed. You can keep going.
It's just it's not stilted, but it's like very like I'm reading dialogue on paper. Me too. Where we're kind of giving the audience exposition and next scene. Like, there's no depth to the character. Like you're saying, you don't really see that struggle at all.
It's all very surface level stuff. Like the boss character, he's just like I'm a gangster.
Yeah.
But that's it. And like the only scenes you really get with most of these people is like them kind of fulfilling their plot, like plot things. Like you said, like with Wong, it's like he has a couple scenes with like 1 or 2 scenes with Tony Leung on the roof. And then he has like a scene with the boss guy when they all like come into the police station and they're like, yeah, we're criminals. We're basically admitting it, but you guys can't do anything about it. Which like that scene was kind of fun, but it felt like they didn't feel like people. And in The Departed, you have so many scenes of where you get a feel for like the characters and not just what they mean to the plot. You get
the
like
city.
Yeah, the city itself too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just people like on roofs like playing golf, like they do a few times in this one.
Yeah.
So it's interesting like how I guess I was thinking that this would be more kind of pensive and thoughtful than, the American remake, but it's like the opposite. Like The Departed is more like a foreign film where it kind of takes its time with not that American movies don't do that, but I'm saying like compared this one feels more American, where like even another example of like telling not showing, and how usually that's a criticism of American movies is like, oh, they don't know how to withhold.
Yeah.
Because American audiences are dumb and they need everything like explained to them. But in Infernal Affairs, it's the scene where the Tony Leung sends the tapes of like the recordings that the boss took, and basically the evidence that links Lau to him, and the girlfriend is like, oh, I listened to the tapes and I don't trust you anymore and I'm leaving or whatever. But in The Departed, you get you don't see it in Infernal Affairs. She just says, oh, this is what happened and now I'm upset. But in The Departed, you see Vera Farmiga get the letter and she puts it in, and you have that shot of her like listening to the tapes and like her face like,
oh yeah,
realizing it. Matt Damon walks out and she just pulls the thing out. There's no words exchanged, but they don't need to. But in this, it's just like, yeah, this happened and now I'm mad, and it's like it's so much weaker of a way to do that, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, did they do the thing? Was she supposed to be the therapist that the other guy was seeing, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't.
Because
I couldn't tell.
I wasn't sure. She was a writer, and the other one was a therapist. So I don't.
Right.
So I'm just like, how does Tony Leung know to give her I guess no, he doesn't. I guess he sends it to him in the mail, and she just happens to open his mail.
Yeah. And
again, in The Departed, there's a connection there. Like Billy has met her. They have they kind of have their own infernal affair, know. And so that like at least establishes that relationship, and like you can kind of see her not trusting him a little bit or being suspicious in The Departed. I mean, and it very much like comes out of nowhere, where she's like, yeah, okay, I'm mad now, and
it does the thing at the end at Tony Leung's funeral where he like looks over, where Andy Lau like looks over and sees her and she's like crying. So then I'm like, okay, so it is the therapist. It is the person that
why would she be upset by it? She doesn't know this guy. Yeah,
we're just racist.
That's why we don't like it.
I thought this would be it'd be a really hard movie to follow what was going on if I didn't know The Departed. Especially the opening, it starts with like similar more or less, or like the same more or less, where like the gangster boss guy being like kind of recruiting Lau as a child and being like, hey, you're gonna go, infiltrate the police for me. And then it shows the two guys in
like police academy.
which also was difficult because I couldn't remember which one was which.
I'm glad they gave them different hairstyles.
Yeah, that was the way. It's so fast. It's so like rapidly cut, and like if I wasn't like, okay, I know where this is going, I would just be like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah.
And then they're both just like they're just there. They're in their things. There's no like thing where, you know, Tony Leung first meets with and you know, maybe you don't need as much detail as The Departed because it's like 20 minutes or something before the whole opening is that, you know, them in the police academy, and then it's like
you kind of see
Leo
both of their journeys as they're happening simultaneously,
and there's way more like detail, and it's like explained a lot more clearly. And this, it just felt just messy.
and Tony Leung's character is just like, I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's just a line of dialogue. You don't really see any of it. And again, with The Departed, you know, you get the connection between, you know, Frank and Sullivan. Like, you know, he was like a kid in his neighborhood, and he kind of like, you know, groomed him from a young age to be
it's
what
cool.
Like,
sorry, finish.
No, that's pretty much it.
It's cool, and I guess I don't want to dive too much into this until we get to The Departed. But like, that like you said before, really making the city feel like an important part. It's like that's also a character. It's like all these, you know, Costello knows Billy because he knows his uncle. You know, he knows like the families are all kind of intertwined there.
And it's also based on a true story with Whitey Bulger, and like he had like an FBI, you know, kind of informant that was kind of keeping him off the radar, which is, I guess it's really coincidental because I don't think Infernal Affairs is based on anything, any like sort of real life, you know, counterpart.
Not as far as I know. No.
Yeah, they are two separate characters, by the way. I looked it up. There's the fiance and there's the therapist. They are two separate characters. So I don't know why she would be so upset at his death, other than like,
unless it was just the therapist that was there and not his fiance. Like, I still don't know which one it was that was there, if they are separate.
I guess it was his therapist. But also, even then, it's like, I didn't feel anything about their relationship. It didn't seem, because he just went to her office and like laid on the couch and slept, basically. And then
like, you don't really get much of that either. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, there's like a little bit of implied romance, but again, there's nothing really to it."
Yeah.
Did you see that there was an alternate ending?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's an alternate ending in the sense that
does Andy Lau also die? Like
no,
because that surprised me.
in China, the film administration regulations, it feels like one of those Hays Code type things where you can't make a movie where the bad guys win, essentially. So like the original ending promotes criminal activity and injustice, and an alternate ending was filmed in order to access the market of mainland China. In the alternate ending, Inspector Chung discovered evidence of Lau's criminal activity and immediately arrested Lau outside the elevator.
Okay.
And then, basically the movie has to end with everyone looking into the camera and saying, like, and that's why crime is bad and you shouldn't do it. The end.
Yeah. Wow.
I was wondering if that was going to happen, if Lau was going to, you know, it was going to be like the ending. But there was no Dingham, which, again, he makes that movie for me in a lot of ways. He's one of the best characters.
Yeah. There just wasn't much of like a supporting cast in general.
Yeah.
You have the two main guys, the police chief, and then the gangster boss guy, and then, you know, the love interests who are barely in it. You have, his name's like Crazy Kung or whatever, and he's kind of a side character, but like there's so many people in The Departed that I mean, maybe this isn't fair because I've seen The Departed like probably 20 times.
Yeah.
But it feels way more like, every character feels like a big character kind of thing.
Yeah. Like they all have lives outside of what they're doing currently on screen.
I noticed when they were leaving the movie theater, it took me out of the scene because I was just like looking at
the movie posters.
They had that one with
it was Men in Black 2.
Men in Black 2. I saw Eight-Legged Freaks with David Arquette. I saw Triple X.
What was but then the Harrison Ford one?
That was K-19 the Widowmaker. And yeah, his like face covering like 3/4 of the poster, just like over his shoulder. The whole shot. It was funny. It would have been funnier if it was like a porno theater and they had all those movie theaters or those posters there. I want to read the influence on Hong Kong cinema part of the Wikipedia page. It's not that long. It's a couple sentences, because I personally thought this was wild, but also maybe kind of absolves this movie a little bit because this is like, it seems like it's kind of the first of its kind there.
Sure.
So it's like, maybe it's okay that it's a little basic, but also I don't really see much of what it's talking about. So it says, Infernal Affairs is the turning point of Hong Kong film aesthetics. Before Infernal Affairs, there were few serious and artistic works in Hong Kong films, but they basically had the following characteristics. 1. The relative roughness of the production was compensated for by the skill of the practitioners. It's a weirdly worded one, but 2. Hong Kong films incorporate a lot of dramatic elements. This is after the release of Infernal Affairs, Hong Kong films began to pay attention to the plot and picture. I'm like, this is a movie that introduced paying attention to the plot? I mean, I guess because that's all there is, but
yeah,
it's like, but like to the first point, I was like kind of surprised how like it seemed like a Hollywood movie, It looked really nice and it was made really well.
Yeah, it's competently done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, how much of this also could be a sort of lost in translation issue where, we are not from Hong Kong. So like maybe, compared, like, watching movies up until this point and then this came out, it probably blew people's minds. Because the story is probably, much more complicated than just like these, I don't know, it sounds like, Hong Kong movies up until then were more about like aesthetics and dramatic, like, I don't know, like just super dramatic overacting maybe, I don't know. So this is like, oh wow, it's like you have to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. To like, because I mean, I think I remember, when I watched The Departed for the first time, I was like, what? 16, 17 years old, and I was just like, I don't know, I was like, who's this character, what are you really have to pay attention to like names and you have to pay attention to the dialogue, and I wasn't always the best at that, so I'd be like, I don't know what's going on. So maybe this is like the first time in Hong Kong there's a movie that you like have to pay attention to.
Oh, there's sequels too.
I knew that, so that makes sense that they didn't kill off
right. Yeah.
Lau, because like I was like, oh, there's 2 more of these, and I think looking at the cast, it looks like Sam is in the other ones too. I don't know if he like survived or if he's like flash. So I think 2 is like a prequel or like a yeah.
And then the third one's like it's almost more like a Godfather 2 thing, where it's before and after the first movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So some of it's before, so Tony Leung's in that one, in the before stuff, and then some of it's after, so he's dead, and then the second one is just all prequel. So it's actually they just use the, which I thought was kind of cool, because maybe when they did the first Infernal Affairs, those guys were just like the guys who played the young versions of them were like, oh yeah, we got bit roles in this big movie, that's cool. But then in the second one, they casted those guys to
Oh, really?
They're like, they play them through the whole movie, so they kind of got to be like, oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm still kind of interested to check those out. I don't after. I was way more like before I watched the first one. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the whole trilogy because I'm just really interested to see, you know. But afterwards, I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe not.
I really don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
Hey, there you go.
There was a lot of times watching The Departed where Kalia would just do that look over at me. And she's seen it before.
Yeah.
But she'd look over at me every time. Because there's so many fucking quotes from that movie that I'll just... Anytime somebody says, you know, ask me a question, I'm like, maybe. That's always where it goes. Yeah, there's a shitload of lines from that I just pepper. And she would just, glance over at me like, oh, that's another one.
Yeah. I quote the, what is it, your period? With the cranberry juice.
Yep. Cranberry juice, always. Yep. Okay. I think... You're good to go to source?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's me first.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going with a 4 for this one. Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not good. So I was like, I couldn't. That's where, like, when I'm like really in the middle on something, that's where I go with a 5. Where I'm like, hey, you know.
Yeah.
But this one, I definitely, after finishing it, I was like, I didn't like it for sure. So it's under that, but it's not terrible. Yeah, like I said, it's very well made. I like the acting, even though I didn't like how thin the characters felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of just, you know, I'm really interested to see what I would have thought of this at the time. Like if I had seen this in 2002, you know, when this would be kind of like a more fresh, you know, action movie, and also pre The Departed, but really having that to compare it to just does this movie no service.
Yeah.
Because I think it just does everything better.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 for me.
Okay.
Infernal Affairs.
Yeah, I think I ended up at about a 5. I had a little bit of a better time with it. I definitely, you know, I guess I liked it a little bit more than I disliked it, but it's a very neutral liking.
Sure.
If that makes any sense. Yeah, I thought some of the departures from The Departed were pretty cool. I guess I really just maybe I just have a Morse code thing, but I thought that was really clever, and I like the way that it was done.
That was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this really only works because I have The Departed to compare it to. So it was like a curiosity to see see the source material.
Yeah.
But you know, it was an hour 40. It was pretty lean. I'll give it that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the characters could have easily been fleshed out a little bit more. Some of the romance subplots were bizarre, and it didn't really have that city feeling that The Departed does. So it's tough to try and rate this on its own merits when you do have something, you know, to compare it to. But as its own thing, I thought it was all right. Am I going to watch it again? I mean, I would be curious to see where they take the story. And you know what? Maybe the prequel and the sequel have that contextual stuff that we're missing that might...
That's what I wonder. Yeah.
Someone needs to make a phantom edit of the 3.
Yeah.
That's
the whole
true.
trilogy was released before The Departed, so they could have, used... It's possible.
Yeah.
But still, this movie alone, you know...
Yeah, on its own, it was like... Yeah, I thought... I saw someone on Letterboxd refer to its aesthetic as, like... you wouldn't download a movie 2002 like you would illegally download a movie aesthetic.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Like, and it does feel very like early 2000s. I mean, flip phones in general will always make things seem, you know, a little dated, but yeah, it's 5. It's okay. I do have to pee, so I'm gonna.
Okay.
And it is
Speaking
not
of
my period.
Oh, speaking of being a period at the end of a sentence, because this is our break time, here's an ad break. Are we back?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're back.
Right.
Switching into my Boston accent for this one.
Yeah. or you can go in and out of it like a couple characters do in this movie.
Yeah, especially the therapist. Every once in a while it's very strong and then it's very normal.
Yeah. We watched another movie.
We did.
As always. This one being The Departed from 2006, directed by Martin Scorsese. It is about an undercover cop and an undercover gangster, and the cop infiltrates the gang of the gang member, and then the gangster infiltrates the police, and it's a cat and mouse story where they're both trying to take down the opposing side's faction. The cop is trying to take down the crime organization, and then the gangster is trying to basically get the cops off their trail, and they're also trying to find out each other's identity.
Wait a minute.
It's a remake of a Hong Kong film called Infernal Affairs from a few years previous. It's also one of my favorite movies, so there's that too.
Yeah. This movie is great.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. Now we can kind of bring out more of the comparisons. Well, I mean, we more or less touched on them.
Yeah,
I took hardly any notes for this one, and I was like really reaching because I'm just like all of it's just like baked in my brain.
Yeah. We had watched it a few months ago already, so it was like sort of fresh in my brain. But I wanted to watch it again just to really, because I had seen it before like years ago. I don't know. I've seen this movie probably 4 or 5 times, not as many times as you probably, but.
No, when I said 20 times before, I'm sure that's not an exaggeration. It's maybe even more.
But yeah, no. So it was a good refresher.
Yeah, I think if you're comparing, it takes a good concept and just it just the tension is so much more like palpable in this movie. Any scene that there is where one of them's like almost gets found out or something like that. It's really really tense movie. But then you also have all these like kind of quieter character moments, or just maybe not even so quiet, but getting to like live in this world with these characters. It feels like such a vibrant, full like world. Like, we kind of touched on in previous segment that like Boston feels like a character in this. I feel like I could go there and I'd be like, oh, I know, that's Costello's place on L Street. I know that place. Yeah.
There's a history, and it's not just exposition dumpy. It's you see all of the characters as they grow up, and you learn about Leo's character almost contextually just by having conversations with his family members, who's alive, who's dead, who's still kind of in that world, and none of it feels forced, and it helps you understand, Billy Costigan's, worldview and like where he comes from and like what he believes in, and him trying to like sort of make something of himself outside of organized crime, which as a lower income person in Boston, I think a lot of people sort of reverted to that because that's the only way to make money, because you're poor, you're a poor Irish guy in Boston, so it's like boom, you have his motivation immediately. Same with Matt Damon's character. He's like a young, bright kid, but Frank Costello helped him out when he was a kid, and sort of like groomed him from a young age. That is one of my favorite lines in the entire movie. Is at the very beginning when he's like giving him the loaves of bread and the milk.
I ain't gonna shut him out.
And he's like, "You good in school?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "So was I." They call that a paradox. It's such a good indication of, you learn about both characters immediately. You know exactly, Frank Costello, he was like this kid that probably had a lot of potential, and he used that potential to do organized crime.
Yeah. Man, and Jack Nicholson could have ended on like an arguable like career high, or like a career high at least. He had to do go and do the bucket list and How Do You Know, which was another like old people romantic comedy. That was his last movie.
Like what, 2011?
10, I think. 10 or 11, yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, he's fucking awesome in this. He's like... this is one of the movies that like firmly established him as like one of the greats in my eyes. It's like the three for me are like this, The Shining, and Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like before this movie, I didn't like give a shit about any of these actors. I will say like part of the reason this movie is so it's just such an important movie to me is I kind of credit it with being the first, how do I put it? Like the first kind of like prestige-y movie that I saw. Like it, I feel like before this I was just watching, and this isn't to say that I don't still love, the original Star Wars movies or the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but that's like all I watched.
Sure.
I watched those, Harry Potter. I watched kids movies or like the blockbuster movies. And this is
like you branching out from young adult, like young adult books.
Yeah. Because I saw this, and like I just associated Leo with the Titanic, like probably a lot of people did.
Sure. Yeah.
And
or like Revolutionary Road or whatever. Like
no, that was
period.
after this.
Was it after? I feel like there's another period romance before this movie.
I mean, there's The Aviator shortly before this.
That's true.
That was like a period piece. Catch Me If You Can.
Oh.
But yeah, I remember seeing this trailer and seeing him in it, and I mean, like, okay, like, oh, this guy's like actually like trying to do. I don't know. Is he like a good actor? I was like, or is he just? I was like, oh no, he's just a teen heartthrob, blah blah blah. But
right.
And I mean, I loved Titanic as a kid. It wasn't like no shit on that. I watched that movie all the time. But yeah, I remember because when it got nominated for Best Picture, it had another run in January of 2007. So I went to see it with my brother and my mom. So I saw this movie when I was 13. And,
shit.
And yeah, I loved it. And I'm happy to see that it holds up, and it really, I feel like really after this is when I kind of just continued on that trajectory of being a film snob, film douche. Because the next year he had There Will Be Blood. I saw that when it came out, and also a really great movie that holds up really well. It's a very like personal movie to me in that sense,
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I probably first saw it at your house. That would be my best guess.
Yeah.
At some point in time, I think. I feel like this is probably a lot of people's first, like, real prestige thing. And, like, you hadn't seen any Martin Scorsese prior to this? Not really?
I don't think so. I was like, maybe... Because I know I saw, like, certain, like, Taxi Driver...
Sure.
And Goodfellas when I was young, but I feel like that was after this.
Okay.
And also I didn't really connect with those ones that much, so.
Yeah. Because like I saw Goodfellas for the first time a few months ago, and I fell in love with that movie. I think it's great. I feel like that's kind of a criticism that's been levied against Martin Scorsese, that he makes the same movie over and over again because he got Goodfellas, because like he makes mobster movies. But I think this is like a breath of fresh air in that it's not your traditional Italian mob movie.
Yeah, because they're Irish. And he beats the shit out of the Italians in it, so of course I love this movie.
That's... Your brain was still forming in the theater. You didn't know what was happening at the time.
Yeah.
But your brain chemistry was permanently altered. Yeah, it's nice to see a mobster movie that doesn't fall into the same Italian tropes. Not to detract anything from Goodfellas, because I think that I really like that movie. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those movies that like inspired a million like oh yeah, we're gonna do the Italian crime drama thing. We're just gonna remake The Godfather over and over again to like, very, very quickly diminishing results. And I think setting it in Boston with Italian characters, or not Italian, sorry, Boston with like Irish characters, it's a different kind of mobster movie. Like, when she says, what Freud said about like Irish people, and he's like, you'll never break them. They'll never tell you anything.
They're impervious to
psychoanalysis. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the characters have different morals than I guess like a typical Italian mobsters, where they're much more reserved. They're much more like not gonna tell you about their feelings, kind of thing.
Yeah. Insanely quotable. Has like a super big cast. And yeah, like so many like memorable characters, like aside from Billy and Frank, Dignam, Colin, you have like Alec Baldwin as Ellerby is awesome.
Yep.
One of my favorite bits in the whole movie is they're trying to like it's like when they're at the Frank and them are meeting the Chinese dealers at like the warehouse, and the police are like watching on tapes, and he's like, I'm gonna go out for a smoke. You want to smoke? What? You don't smoke? You're one of those fitness freaks, huh? Fuck yourself.
Yeah. It's just like that super rapid. Yeah, that shit's great. Or like the way that like Dignam talks to Leo, just very cash. Like it's almost like he's thought of this stuff before, and how quickly he's just able to wrap it up. Rapidly say like, oh yeah, I was with your mother last night, like that, just that kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh, she's tired from fucking my father. Yeah. Probably it's got to be Mark Wahlberg's best role too. Like he's on fucking fire this whole movie. Yeah, and then even like the characters in and this comparison to Infernal Affairs, like the only character in the mob bosses like gang that I remember, and it's only a little bit, and it's really because of that death scene where he's in the car. That was like kind of cool. Is that the crazy Kung guy?
Yeah.
But in this you have
Mr. French.
You have Mr. French. You have Fitzy.
Is that the guy from Shawshank Redemption?
Fitzy.
One of them is like Boggs. Boggs from Shawshank.
I don't know if I ever knew that was that same guy, but no, that's Delahunt. That's the one who's like the undercover. No, Fitzy's the I'm not gonna be home for supper.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Are you fucking kidding? Are you? I don't know if we got it. Are you fucking retarded? That ain't fucking right. The Citizens thing. That was something I was surprised was like ripped straight from Infernal Affairs. Was like the misspelling of the. That was kind of cool. When that came up in Infernal Affairs.
Yeah. That and then also the like, oh, they're a cop. Oh, if they're not paying attention to you, they must be a cop. Which
is done better in this, I think.
Yeah, because then he's like, he looks over at Billy and he's like, "You're a cop," and he's like, "What did you say?" Like he almost
they do that in the old one too, but it's just I like the I don't know. It's more comedic in this, I think. So yeah, just a ton of real like characters that stick out to you. I think like even if you don't remember all their names, you can be like, oh yeah, that guy, yeah. And they all got like moments, they all have like memorable, like good moments.
Oh yeah. There was I loved that it was an 18-minute title drop.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I feel like we've talked about that before, where it's like I like a movie where
a late title drop.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and the build up with the Dropkick Murphys song, like I forever associate this movie with that song.
Oh yeah. I love like watching that too. Something that like I guess is like a new thing. I really like appreciated that the title sequence even more, because it's like it's the like dolly shot. It's just like sliding to the side, and then it'll like cut, and then it's Matt Damon, and then it cuts and it's Leo, and it's like it feels like a title sequence for a TV show, where it's really like getting you amped up for the episode to come.
Yeah.
And it's really like knowing what's to come in this movie for me, and knowing how much I like it. It's really like, it's just, the bum 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 ba da 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 da. It's just very, it amps you up, and I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You get like way into it. Yeah, speaking on the music too, something that I also really, this is one of my few notes, because this isn't stuff that like I've never noticed before, but it's just something that I was like, I'm trying to look for things that like maybe I don't think about as much, or I don't talk about as much when I talk about this movie. But I feel like Christopher Nolan is really good at this too. He doesn't use needle drop, like it's score music for him usually, but it's kind of the same thing where it's like there's music playing so much in this movie, and it'll like, one scene will start, and like as it's nearing the end of that scene, it'll start a song, and then that song will continue playing into the next scene, and then maybe that song will fade out, or maybe it'll continue, maybe it'll fade out, and then another song will pick up, and then that'll go into the next scene. And it's just like constant music just kind of propelling you into the next scene, and just keeps the momentum going into like all these, like, so many memorable scenes. There's so many like great scenes in this movie, and they're all like connected, so it just kind of makes it feel like one. You just keep going, and it doesn't stop. And I was gonna point this out, but I figured I'd wait till this. When you mentioned that Infernal Affairs was so much shorter, it's 1:40. This is 50 minutes longer. It's 2.5 hours, but goddamn if it doesn't feel shorter.
It does. Even for a 2.5 hour movie, it feels incredibly lean.
Yeah.
Just like there's nothing that's happening on the screen that isn't relevant to what is going on. It isn't like important in moving the characters forward and moving the story forward.
Yeah.
Like there's no pointless scenes. There's no filler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even, I know Scorsese's like pretty famous for needle drops. He loves the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah,
he loves the Rolling Stones so goddamn much. He just can't help himself.
I think he uses "Gimme Shelter" twice in this. He also uses the Dropkick Murphys song twice, but
yeah. Which I mean, even then, the second time he played the Dropkick Murphys song, it got me amped up again, because you're like, oh shit, all right,
it's a good use of
it's
it.
about to pop off.
Yeah.
But those needle drops are great, but I also thought Howard Shore's soundtrack throughout the whole thing was also pretty good. The little like acoustic tango kind of like thing that's going on.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
it was just
Howard
great.
Shore's great. Yeah,
I really liked the music also when I think it was a couple times, like basically when the two parties were intersecting, or like I think the drug deal
when
that
Martin Sheen dies, or
that's one of the times. It almost sounded like
when he hits the ground, and as soon as he hits the ground, it goes ba 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 ba.
Yeah. Leading up to that, it was almost like this very tense. It almost reminded me of like boss fight music in a video game, or like you're about to encounter like a regenerator or something in Resident Evil. It's just like a very like I don't know. I don't know. I noticed it this time, and I really liked it. The image of Martin Sheen floating through the sky is like imprinted into my brain, though. Just like that, lifeless, and then he splats.
I still remember the first time seeing that. My mom like gasping out loud when it cuts to that. It's like, well, I mean, seems like he was probably gonna die, or something bad was gonna happen.
Also, I love that it was silent.
Yeah.
Like it's just. That just heightened it so much more. Mm-hmm. And I think I read somewhere that was a genuine reaction from Leo. Like he didn't know when the body was going to drop. So when it hits, he like is genuinely like surprised and taken aback by it. I think I read that somewhere.
Another thing I took note of this time, it's a nitpick, but it's a negative, is the like city, when they're like in the police station, and it's supposed to be like the city skyline, like the backdrops they have for it looks really fake. Like they are not convincing at all.
Oh, really? I guess I didn't notice that. I didn't really pay attention to like it's like they green screened it, or they're like on a set.
I think, I don't know if it's green screen, but I think it's like, I think they had like, it was kind of like done old school. Like they had like
a still image
murals in the back. Yeah,
interesting.
And they were not convincing at all. But nitpick. It was
yeah.
I was like, I can't just be. I was trying to like look for things so I'm not just like heaping praise on it, but like that was the only thing I had really.
Yeah, that and like maybe the therapist's accent coming and going.
You could criticize that a little bit.
But
also,
like, again,
Martin Sheen too, which is surprising from
his like kind of inconsistent,
such a storied.
Yeah.
Because the line that always gets me, that it always sticks out. I'm like, it's near the beginning, and he goes, "Do you want to be a co-op, or do you want to appear to be a cop?" He says "cop" two separate ways in one line. He says "co-op" and "cop."
Oh man,
yeah, that one always like rings in my ears.
Oh.
But again, these are like minor issues, not like
you really got to be searching it out.
Yeah, and I mean, if you know the accents, because have you ever watched those like, because I like watching those a lot. It's like accent expert breaks down.
Oh
like,
I've seen those before,
and you realize just like how many mistakes people make in.
And
you're like, I don't know, he sounded British to me, but it'll be like actually this region. They say their R's like this, and he did it like this, and
and it's like the sort of Boston accent is one that anyone can do shittily because it's a silly accent. So it's like, I don't know if they had like any sort of like vocal coach or like, you know what it sounds like.
Well, like, I know at least like Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg, they just leaned into their natural.
They're already natural
accents.
ones. Yeah. What was I going to say? That's like a plot in 30 Rock where, what's her face? Julianne Moore is like one of Alec Baldwin's love interests. And she has like a thick Boston accent.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, you're Jackie from Boston.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost hard to take seriously as like a regional dialect because it just... I've heard it made fun of so many times that it's just like, my brain is like, you're making fun of this right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's like, Matt Damon's almost, it was like the most comical. But again, he's from there, so, it's probably like a genuine accent. But it's so, it is a little silly.
What did you think of the ending when you saw it for the first time as a kid?
Do you mean like the ending, or do you mean like the climax, like where Leo dies?
I guess I guess that because it's very abrupt. Where like you've been following this character the entire time, and he finally gets him, and then he gets popped.
Also a scene that is just like not done as well in Infernal Affairs. I'm sorry, but you see the gunman before. Like, the doors open, and then it's a shot from behind him, and you see the guy standing there with the gun. In The Departed, it's just, boom, you get no warning whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like my opinion, or my feeling hasn't really changed. I just, it's not every time I see it, I'm like, oh, no!
Yeah,
because I know it's coming, but, like, it's more or less like it's effective every time because I think and it's just it makes you angry, and it makes me, it's like, it's heartbreaking because I think even though he's a fucking cop, I think Billy's like one of my like he's like one of like the great like movie heroes. In my eyes, he sacrifices everything. He's getting shit on the whole movie. He puts up with so much shit. There's like no. He never. I mean, he does. No, like in his eyes. I mean, I guess the moment that he dies, he doesn't really know, but he kind of loses. And he doesn't say that. Matt Damon ends up getting got.
Yeah.
But like he just never. He can never succeed, really, even though he is doing what he's supposed to. He's never failing, but he never gets rewarded. But he always does the right thing, and then he almost gets it. He almost, he almost gets Matt Damon, and then he gets popped. And it sucks. It really sucks. And I love his character too. I think besides the hero aspect, I really like how vulnerable he is. I like how he feels relatable in a way where he's in this kind of violent culture, but he's on the softer side, or his I don't know, he's really kind of socially awkward in ways that I resonate with.
It's like the scene when he's trying to get drugs from the therapist, and he's basically just berating her. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna give me 2 pills? Why don't you give me a gun and I'll just blow my head off?" And she's clearly very upset because as a therapist, you're supposed to have this demeanor where you're still professional, and it's clear that he gets to her, and she's very upset. And then when they go to leave, she gives him the prescription, and then he's like, "Do you want to get a cup of coffee?" And then it's he has these outbursts, but then he has this vulnerability to him that it makes him a very sympathetic character. That he's a cop, but you want to root for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm just picturing people seeing that movie and being like, "This movie sucks." They're mad that they kill him off at the end in such a very unceremonious and abrupt way.
Exactly. Even in his death, it's the most appropriate but inappropriate way for him to die, because it's so just abrupt and nothing, and it's just done.
Yeah.
There's no it just happens, and it's no, he's the good guy. He's the protagonist of this,
we spent
this
2 hours and 20
drama.
minutes with this guy.
Yeah. And then you just do him like
out.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's but points to the movie because it
effective.
sucks as a wanting to root for the character, but it's one of the harshest movie deaths I think ever. And then it doesn't really make up for it, but the ending is great.
Yeah. But that's another line that I think of is when he's in the elevator and he's just "Just kill me," and he's like, "I am killing you."
Yeah. Oh man, every fucking time, the whole rooftop conversation, just it gives me goosebumps how good that is. Just Leo just letting out all that rage and shoot a cop, Einstein. Watch what happens. Well, what happens is this bullet would go right through your fucking head.
Yeah.
And then when he finally snaps and he's just shut the fuck up. And
it's perfectly syncopated with each fist pump. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good because Matt Damon is such a fucking piece of shit, and
he's such a little weasel. Yeah.
Even though he gets away, even though what's coming, it's still very satisfying in the moment. And maybe that's why they let him go, why it is so over the top there, is because that's Martin Scorsese's little way of, before he's gone, he's like, okay, he is going to die in a few minutes, but we're going to let him just go hog wild.
It made me think very much of Uncut Gems.
How do you mean?
Which, spoilers for Uncut Gems.
Spoilers for Uncut
Gems.
The
very ending.
The very abrupt.
Where the game just ended, his bet's paid off, he's going to get all of his money, and he's going to be able to pay off all of his debts, and he's going to finally get his wife back or whatever, and as soon as the guy gets out of the thing, just shoots him right in the head, and he dies with a smile on his face, but it's you finally get to see him win, and it's just taken away from him immediately.
Yeah. That one I don't feel as strongly about. Because I hated that fucking character that kills him anyways.
Oh, and, yeah.
I mean, I hate the guy that kills Leo because he kills Leo, but and then he dies, and then Anthony Anderson dies, and then James Badgedale dies.
It's a bloodbath.
Yeah, it is. The only survivor of the main cast is Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I guess Alec Baldwin's still.
Hammer.
Yeah, he's at the funeral.
Yeah.
But,
and Vera Farmiga, I guess, if you're counting them.
Yeah.
But yeah, very good. I love that even, like, in that when he's walking to his apartment at the end, there's, like, the dog walks by, and it's like, even the dogs.
The dog's
don't
like him. No.
Yeah. I love that little...
He's like, hi, dog. And I feel like the lady even, like, pulls the dog. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is... I like that. Like, yeah, it's even the dog itself, though, is uninterested. Dogs love everybody, right?
Yeah,
but they don't love Matt Damon. They don't love Colin. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I should just do a little...
Was that a Francois? One of our Francois videos, we referenced the ending of...
yeah.
And like,
That's the second one.
Was it the case of the missing gun or something like that?
It's the missing beret.
Missing beret. And then who shoots me at the end?
I do.
Do you do? Okay. And because I walk in and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I kill you and I take my hat back. And that's the ending. And then, dude, like, it kills me every time. But just like because this movie ends with he dies, and then it pans up from Matt Damon's body to, like, you see the dome of the Capitol thing or whatever that is, and the rat walks along the handrail. So we do like in Francois, we do that, but we pan up from your body and we tilt up, and it's your brother just playing, like, Call of Duty with his friends. It's just
that's
the thought that,
right.
like, you were just murdered, like, feet from them, and they're just still playing the game.
I forgot that he was down there for that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And also special shout out to Roy Buchanan, who his song "Sweet Dreams" is the credits music for this movie.
Oh, that's the one that plays in that final shot.
It's got like the little volume swells, and then like the guitar kicks in. That's a guy that my dad turned me on to, and he has a couple albums. There's one in particular that I think it's just self-titled, Roy Buchanan. But that album is really, really good, and his story is tragic. He's
Roy
like,
Buchanan story?
Yeah. He was like this, I think he had alcohol issues, substance abuse issues, but he was still making music, and then I think he like fell off the wagon, and he got arrested for like a very, very minor, like, I don't know, DUI charge or whatever. But he's only in jail for like, maybe a month, and he like hung himself.
Oh, damn.
But that song is like, I think it's the opening track on that album. But it's, if you don't listen to Roy Buchanan, you should. His shit's really good. I think he's...
I like that.
Is he Irish? I don't know. No, he was born in Ozark, Kansas. Never mind. Arkansas, sorry.
It sounded like, I mean, I didn't think it was, but it reminds me of, like, Pink Floyd. How it's played there. In the maybe that's just because there's also a Pink Floyd song in the movie, but that's why I'm thinking of it.
Yeah. Which, coincidentally, there is a Sopranos connection here.
Oh, that's not surprising, I guess.
in a later season episode of The Sopranos, there's like a scene where Chris and Tony are driving in the car, and they're listening to the Departed soundtrack.
Oh, really?
So it's one of the very few times, I guess they reference like The Godfather a little bit in that, but they don't really reference any sort of like modern gangster cinema, which is interesting because it is kind of a prevailing theme where, Christopher is like, he gets his movie made about gangsters. Called,
I remember you
Hatchet or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very like Stab in the Scream movies kind of thing. But it's one of the few like references to modern gangster movies, because they couldn't reference Goodfellas because half the cast of Goodfellas is in The Sopranos.
Sure.
So it's like, they do a little bit with that. I think I mentioned it, like, what's his face? No, I forget. From The Matrix. He plays
also in...
He plays Ralphie in The Sopranos.
Joe Pantoliano. Probably. Yeah.
There's like a scene where like AJ gives his mom a copy of The Matrix.
Oh, okay.
But he's also a character in the show, so it's like that weirdness. But yeah, they reference they're like listening to Comfortably Numb in the car.
Oh, nice.
And it's like specifically Roger Waters and Van Morrison or whoever is credited to it.
I was wondering because it wasn't like the album version.
Yeah.
It's a little different sounding.
It must be a live version.
It was like maybe like a live version. Yeah,
I think that's what it is. I don't know where from. Like,
oh, yeah, the bottom of the Wikipedia page, there's C also, so like links to other pages. List of American films of 2006. The Departed, an episode of The Simpsons that parodies the film. And then list of films that most frequently use the word fuck.
Yeah. This one's got a lot of them.
And also, I didn't know this until just now, there was a script written for a sequel. But it was ultimately shelved due to the expense and Scorsese's lack in interest in creating a sequel.
Yeah, good on you, Martin. Because who would it be about? Yeah. Who would it be about? There's no Dignam?
I guess so. Dignam and Ellerby. It's the other guys. That's the sequel. The Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell.
Holy shit! Holy shit! You're right. Oh my god.
Because after he like kind of killed like that wasn't a lawful kill, so he got demoted, so he's just like a regular like beat cop. And
yeah, or it becomes the porn parodies from Boogie Nights where he's like slapping women and shit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm good to move on. They're like, I feel like I'm like missing stuff, but it's probably just like more quotes I want to rifle off. But
yeah.
It's just, there's a lot of good quotes in this movie.
I think this is a 10.
Nice.
I think it is. It's very hard for me to find a flaw in this movie. I think it's incredibly tight storytelling. All the characters feel fleshed out. The location feels fleshed out. I feel like we hardly talked about him at all. I mean, we talked about him a little bit, but Jack Nicholson is just so compelling in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
Even when he's doing his weird Jack Nicholson shit, it's like scary. He's doing like, I got this rat, and he's like doing the.
Yeah.
It's ugh. And I feel like there are so many good one-liners from him that you can't really repeat on this podcast. Yeah. Maybe mostly in the opening scene,
or when they're meeting with the Chinese like buyers or whatever
in this country.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson is great. Yeah, everyone is perfectly casted, and everyone it does their role incredibly well. So it's another 10, Martin. Good on you.
Mm-hmm. It's obviously also a 10 for me. I feel like I was trying to be like, if I was like looking at it objectively, or if this is the first time, like, would it be more like an 8 or 9? But I don't know. It's tough because I don't know how biased I am by my experience with it. But I also it's really hard to find any major flaws, unless you want to count Leo dying a flaw, because that sucks. Everybody's great. It's 2.5 hours, but like I said, it moves at such a fast clip that you don't really feel it. Love the dialogue.
I feel like I say this a lot on this podcast, but it feels like a movie from like a bygone era.
Yeah,
where like they don't make them like they used to.
It's a classic Scorsese gangster movie, and like I think this is like, well, no, I guess he did The Irishman, but that's a lot different kind of a gangster movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen
very
that
different
one?
Pacing? Yeah, I saw it like when it came out, so like 4 years ago now.
It's way more like, it's not like cool gangster stuff. It's very like. It's more about just like mortality than it is about like the gang side of it. So the last like real Scorsese gangster movie. And Yeah, it's my favorite movie of his. He's got a lot of great ones, but this is my favorite. It's what made me like really love Leo as an actor, and a lot of the rest of the cast too. You know, like Nicholson kind of rocketed up my list after this. Mark Wahlberg.
That's a hell of a run for Leo. Like Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator, The Departed, even even Titanic before that.
Gangs of New York too.
Gangs of New York.
Yeah. Yeah, he did have like he was like really like on fire through the 2000s especially.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a great movie.
Sick. Travis wasn't on, but I feel like he would give it a 10, or he would find something to detract about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he said he was telling me he watched the Seven Samurai recently, and he was like, "Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really feel it this time." I'm like, interesting. I mean, it's been a little bit since I've seen that movie, but I don't know. I don't vibe with that. Because, like, sometimes I'll watch a movie once, and I'll like, okay, like with No Country for Old Men. I mean, like, I didn't really like it, but I think I need to watch it again to really get it. Most of the time, though, I can watch a movie once, and that is my opinion, and I know, like, I'm not a person who it's few and far between where there's a movie that I need to watch more than once to form my opinion. Usually I get it, you know, one watch, and it's solidified more or less. So I don't really vibe with that, but yeah, that's what he said. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Could be right. Anyways, we are just going straight to our next week's movie.
Yeah.
So next week's movie is just double checking. Oh yeah, this was our first one for this month, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always forget. Yeah, last week was
Love on a Leash.
So next week's movie, from 1997, directed by Quentin Tarantino. We're going to watch Jackie Brown, which I think is another one that you've watched recently.
Yeah, I didn't go. They showed it at Wealthy. We didn't end up going to it, but yeah, we did watch it fairly recently. Sick. And you haven't seen this one.
No, this is one of two of his that I have not seen. So
yeah. So you haven't seen his most popular and his least popular.
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess
probably.
Technically.
Yeah, no, I would probably say Jackie Brown is his least not necessarily rated, but like least seen.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I would say
it's the one in between like Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. Yeah,
and
two of his biggest ones.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
I'm excited then.
Yeah, that'll be.
And that's I might, because I did start Rum Punch. Maybe I'll try to finish that before the next.
Oh, the
recording.
book.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, yeah, and I gotta look up where it is. Right. Jackie Brown.
Where did we watch it? I think it's on HBO.
I think I have this one on DVD. No, it's on Apple TV. That is all I'm seeing it on.
Weird.
So.
Oh no, we watched it. I own this on Blu-ray. That's how we watched it. That's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have this one. Yeah, I like Elmore Leonard too, so that's also exciting. Yeah, so it's all I'm seeing it on is Apple TV. So watch
your
it there.
autofocus on your camera is pulsating right now.
Oh yeah, it is weird. Weird. What the fuck? Is it I wonder if it's the like shine.
Oh,
maybe. Oh well, we'll just deal with it for the next couple minutes, I guess.
Anyway.
Yeah, so watch it there if you don't want to be spoiled for Jackie Brown. Before next week's episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on Twitch and YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have Facebook. No, we also have social pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I'm falling apart. And
real quick.
Yeah,
I do want to say as of this recording, we just hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, which rocks. Thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, like it, leave a comment. You know, all that shit helps with the algorithm, which I think is doing most of the work, because all of our videos, all of our more recent episodes kind of hit the 200-ish views on average within the first week, which is, we don't post really about the YouTube, like, at all. So there's some sort of algorithmic shit happening. So if you like what you're seeing, leave a comment, you know, give a like, I don't know, do something. Same with Apple Podcasts, you know, if you like it, we're at a 3.7 on Apple Podcasts because someone gave us a 1-star review and didn't write anything.
Yeah.
So like I gave a 5-star review to counteract it, but we're at like a 3.7. I don't know. Who knows how algorithms work, but you know, engaging with our content will always help. So that's my little PSA. I won't do it every week, but thanks for 100 subscribers and the views.
I thought you were gonna point out if we want to mention, because it'll probably be out by the time this episode comes up or thereabouts. Our new short film will be on.
Yes.
Probably just put on the Power Station Productions YouTube. It's called Step Bro. You'll probably have to put in Power Station Productions with it because that is kind of a generic name. But it's one we did for a film festival, so you know, check it out. It's pretty good.
We'll link it in the script.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And with all that said,
there's so many for this one.
Yeah. I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
Yes.
TJ, aka J Spot Jack Cheese, and with me as always.
As always, I'm a paradox. Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch.
Nice.
Is the episode over? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Fuckers. I was gonna say like, how's your mother?
Oh, she's tired from fucking my father.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
How's your mother? She's on her way out. We all are. Act accordingly. And
yes. There it is.
There you go.